Hey there, y'all. Meteorologist Kristin Walla here this evening. We are going to do a little update on the tropics. I just want to make sure that my audio is working real quick. Beautiful. Okay, so y'all can hear me and I can see your comments. That is all good signs. I'll see if I can have a little time at the end of this to go through and answer any of y'all's questions. But for now, I just wanted to do a more in-depth dive on the forecast, be able to go more slowly through it, break it down into bite-sized chunks. You can also find all of this information over on our website, kiiitv.com/weather. We've got a couple different articles up there right now. We've got our regular forecast post, we've got a tropics one like normal, and then we also have one centered on the weather impact alert days that we have going on. So without further ado, let's this forecast. So we have potential tropical cyclone number 6 right now. So this was Invest 91L. Now it is PTC 6. That's just a designation that the Hurricane Center can give a storm that's not quite organized into a bona fide tropical system, whether that's a depression, a storm, a hurricane, anything like that, just yet. So in this instance, it doesn't have a defined center of circulation, but it does have sustained winds of 50 miles per hour. So that is tropical storm strength. It also has gusts up to 60 miles per hour. However, it just does not have that closed circulation just yet. The hurricane hunters were flying around in it today, and that is going to be some great data for the forecast models to pull. And the better data that we get, the better forecast models that we will be able to put out and the more accurate they will be. So again, PTC 6 right now does not have that closed center of circulation. It's more of an elongated trough. So instead of more of a tight circle, it's more of an oval, kind of oriented northwest to southeast at this point. And something to note, whenever this does start to get its act together in the next day or so, the new center could form anywhere in that axis, and that could have implications on the forecast cone, or rather it could change the forecast cone. It could move it further away from us, it could move it closer. So that's something that we're really going to be keeping an eye on for y'all. So what is a PTC? I just kind of went over it, but basically it stands for potential tropical cyclone. It's a disturbance that's not yet a tropical cyclone, which is either a tropical storm or a hurricane. It's kind of a broad umbrella term. And the reason that the Hurricane Center has started doing these and putting out these PTC labels is because that system could be threatening land within the next 48 to 72, 96 hours, something like that. So it allows the Hurricane Center to start issuing forecast products like the cone, storm surge forecasts, and the watches, the warnings, all of that stuff. Now we are heading into the peak of tropical season that happens 2 days from today on September 10th. I believe that would be Tuesday. So we are definitely in the middle of activity, and there has been quite a lull in terms of tropical activity for a good chunk of this season, which seems pretty surprising given that we were expecting such an active season, because we have record warm sea surface temperatures and we have a developing La Nina, which typically means more activity in the Atlantic. Though we did have Hurricane Beryl, which was at one point a Category 5 hurricane when it was out in the Atlantic and Caribbean. So that did take up a lot of energy, but a lot of that energy has since kind of been recouped in the atmosphere, and we are primed and ready to go. Here's a look back at the other storms that we've had so far this year. I mentioned Beryl. That was the first hurricane and first major hurricane of the 2024 season. Before that, we had Alberto, which gave us a little bit of trouble here, even though it didn't make landfall near us. Then we had Chris, which was a very short-lived tropical storm, went into Mexico. Debbie made landfall as a Cat 1 in Florida, and Ernesto was a Cat 2 earlier. So Francine is going to be the next name on the list. So I want to take this day by day with y'all, kind of a calendar format, if you will. So already starting today, we're seeing hazardous surf conditions. The beach conditions aren't quite the best. We have a high rip current risk right now, and that is going to continue pretty much from now through about Wednesday or Thursday. Thursday, the rip current risk could be a little bit lower because the wave heights won't be quite as rough, but the wave period, that return period, is still going to be on the longer side. So tomorrow we've got those hazardous beach conditions and marine conditions, and deep tropical moisture is starting to move in. You could see we already had a lot of upper level clouds today. We're going to start getting a little bit more of those mid and lower level clouds coming in tomorrow with that influx of moisture. So increasing cloud cover, as well as some rain chances popping back up in our forecast. And I have down there on the bottom Francine being named because it is likely that within the next day or so we do see PTC 6 get that defined center of circulation and become a verified tropical storm. Now, heading into Tuesday and Wednesday, we have these in red for weather impact alert days. I'll touch more on that in just a little bit. For us, what this means in terms of Francine as a whole is this is when we're going to be seeing our highest rain chances. And within that, those highest rain chances are going to be closer to the coast. I'll explain why that is also in just a little bit. We're just kind of going by day here real quick. The hazardous surf conditions still going on, but the winds are going to be a little bit breezier heading into Tuesday and Wednesday as this system gets closer to us. So that is a look at Tuesday and Wednesday, the Hurricane Center forecasting sometime Wednesday afternoon or evening for Francine to make landfall. Wednesday is also going to be the biggest day for our surf conditions, waves up to 7 feet, wave periods at 8 to 10 seconds, so not the best marine conditions. Please use caution if you are heading out on the waters, and try to not go swimming this week. It is going to be a little rough on the waters. Now, heading into Thursday, we're going to start to see drier air kind of wrapping around the backside of what is to become Francine, so that means drier air and more sunshine back here in the coastal bend, as well as less rain chances. It still is going to be a little on the humid side, so I hope you enjoyed the nice dry weather that we had the past couple of days in terms of humidity. It's been so nice. And then heading into Thursday, like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, the wave heights finally decreasing, but the wave periods are still going to be on the longer side. So those marine conditions are one reason why we're going to have the weather impact alert days for Tuesday and Wednesday, but also the other reason that we're going to have it is the tropical downpours that we could be seeing with this system and some of those outer bands coming across the coastal bend as the system makes its way to the north. Now, in those tropical downpours, as the name suggests, downpour, there can be a lot of rain. And so much so, I always think this is really cool, that the radars, like they're called WSR-88D, that is the official name of the radar. I'm a nerd, I know. But they have a specific function for tropical rain because it is so much heavier than regular rain. So they may be using that heading into this week, just something that y'all can tuck away in your brain. Anyway, the tropical downpours, that can produce some localized flooding, and we had a ton of rain this past week, so our soil is already really saturated. If you add a lot more rain on top of that, it's not going to soak up very easy, so we could see some localized flooding, and we do have a flood risk for that. So make sure that you're taking your rain gear out with you in the morning, especially if you live closer to the coast, and drive safe. Remember, turn around, don't drown. So first, I want to focus on the marine part of the forecast, and then I'll get more into the rain chances, flood risk, that kind of stuff in just a bit. So on the water tomorrow, it is going to be a little gusty, winds up to 25 knots, and the waves 5 to 6 feet. They'll go down a tiny little bit heading into Tuesday, but pick right back up heading into Wednesday. Again, that wave period is pretty long, so we do have a high rip current risk. The bays could be choppy at times, but they're probably going to lean a little bit towards rough instead. So we do have a small craft advisory out for any small boats and a coastal flood advisory as well, because those bigger waves can push a little bit more water on shore and potentially flood some of our local beaches. Speaking of those waves, again, Wednesday having the biggest wave heights, 5 to 7 feet, in a wave period of 8 to 10 seconds. So pretty much from now through the first half of Thursday, I have that high rip current risk on here. You're probably going to see red flags at the beach. So swimming, probably not advisable over the next coming days. So elsewhere in the tropics, we have two other areas of interest. One of those is an Invest 92L. It's got a high chance of development over the next several days, but we're not really concerned with it. And then the one next to it also has a medium chance for development over the next week. Now, not Invest 91L now, it's potential tropical cyclone number 6, or PTC6. It's got a 90% chance of development over the next 2 days. It's pretty much a slam dunk that it's going to develop into our next named system for the 2024 season. So we are expecting Francine to form. Now here is what we've been talking about the past couple of days and where the forecast has been leaning. So we've been talking about if it's going to be a weaker system, then it would lean a little bit more towards the Texas coastline. We'd see more direct impacts, more rain, all that good stuff. Now, if it was a stronger system, it's going to be kind of reaching up higher into the atmosphere, and that's what it's going to be steered by, is the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere. So that would mean a stronger system, and you can see that high pressure off towards Cuba and Florida. That is a mid-level and upper-level high. So the trend that we've been seeing since yesterday is more of an easterly tracking storm, also a stronger storm. So that is taking more of the direct impacts away from us, which, as you can see there, does mean less rain and lower rain chances for us. But that's not to say we're going to get out of this without any impacts whatsoever. We're still going to be seeing rain chances. We're still going to have that chance for some localized flooding. We're still going to have that chance for a little bit of surge even as it makes its way by. So here's what rain coverage is looking like from Monday or Tuesday through Wednesday as this passes us by. You can see up towards Houston and Louisiana, kind of the Lake Charles area at the top right of the graphic. You can see it's more widespread. That's where we're expecting most of the rain to go. Now, yesterday I had this a little bit more, I'm trying to figure out which way it is for y'all. Oh well, but I have the higher chances scooted a little further to the west, if that makes sense. So I had numerous over Corpus Christi, and since then I've shifted it over to the east because I don't think we're going to see quite as much rain, but I do think we still have that scattered risk, which is up to 60%. So we still have a pretty good chance for rain here in Corpus Christi. That being said, I mentioned the soils being really saturated. We've already gotten a lot of rain here at the coast. We are going to have a flood risk. This is from the Weather Prediction Center, and they have a marginal risk for Monday. You can see it is pretty confined to the coast for the most part. For some of our southern counties, it does extend inland a little bit. Now, heading into Tuesday, this does look like our highest chance for rain showers. That's also when we're going to see our highest flood risk, again, because that's when we could see the heaviest rain and the most widespread rain. So that slight risk extends pretty much up and down the entire Texas coast, and pretty much all of our coastal counties are fully encompassed in it. And then right on the outside of that, we still have the marginal risk. Heading into Wednesday, then that risk is translated up towards the Houston and Louisiana areas, the Lake Charles area, places like that, as the storm is making landfall because it's taking all the rain up there with it. Here's a look at the forecast cone, what it stands as right now. We'll get another forecast cone update here in about the next 30 minutes, so we'll have that on the 10 o'clock news for y'all. But as it stands right now, they are expecting this to stay moving relatively slowly to the northwest and essentially just maintaining its current intensity at 50 miles per hour from now through tomorrow evening. Heading into Tuesday night, Wednesday, early Wednesday morning, they're expecting it to be just shy of hurricane status, but you can see there we are on the very outside of that cone. That being said, a little refresher on what the cone means is that it's anywhere where the center of the storm could track. So if the center goes up the western side of that cone, it would mean a lot bigger impacts for us here in the coastal bend. And conversely, if it goes to the right side of the cone, then it would be a lot less impacts for us. So the Hurricane Center is also acknowledging that eastern trend, but they're staying a little bit more middle of the road for now. And we'll see with that 10 o'clock update if they do shift a little bit more to the east or not. Their current forecast is a 75 mile per hour or Category 1, right there at the baseline for hurricane status, hurricane to make landfall near the Lake Charles area. That's where the center of the cone goes. And again, that doesn't mean it's going to stay right up and down the center. It could go anywhere within that forecast cone. And then it just tracks right on up into the lower portions of the Midwest as there's a big trough up there that's going to catch it and tug it on out. So with all of that being said, with all of the current threats that we would be facing, the flood risk, the heavy downpours, the small amount of surge that we could see, and the high rip current risk, I would put us in just the attentive mindset. We kind of introduced this graphic with Beryl back in July, and now I'm going to bring it back out, and I adjusted it for us. So we're not quite in an alert stage, even though we have alert days. That's something different. But our mindset should be, we're paying attention to the forecast, we're closely monitoring it to see if anything is changing, but things don't look too drastic for us right now. Something else that we introduced around the time of Beryl was this statement, courtesy of our chief, Alan. He said, minor shifts in track can mean big changes in impact. So when I mentioned that forecast cone, if it were to track up the western side of it, that's not that big of a forecast shift. And we saw that time and time again with Beryl, as those tiny little increments where that forecast cone moved, it added up over time, and that gave us a really big change in our forecast. At one point we were on the eastern side of the cone, and then we were completely out of it. So the same mentality applies here. Those tiny little shifts over time, they can add up, and it could go either way. But for now, there is that eastern trend. As it stands, here is what our current in-house model looks like. I'm going to walk y'all through this here. And again, don't necessarily get attached to what this looks like, because even our own in-house model doesn't necessarily line up with the forecast cone. And you'll see that once we get towards the end of this Futurecast a little bit more. So heading into Monday afternoon, you can still see it's not quite got its stuff together just yet. But then you can see heading into Tuesday, it's a little bit more consolidated, and then heading into Tuesday morning for us, I'm going to zoom in on Corpus Christi here. You can see it's still, we don't have all that much going on, but again, don't anchor yourself, is what we call it, to what this one iteration of Futurecast looks like. Easily, those little rain bands could scoot a little bit over to the west and we see rain. So that's why we have those rain chances in the forecast. So that's what it could be looking like heading into Tuesday morning. And then heading into Tuesday afternoon, you can see some of those rain bands coming across the coastal bend. But because Futurecast and the Hurricane Center cone are both a little ways offshore, we're not quite seeing as much as we would if they were shifted over to the west just a little bit more. So now heading into Wednesday morning at 12 a.m., so really, really early Wednesday, if not really late Tuesday night, however you want to look at it, you can see it's already very well put together here on our radar presentation. And again, you can see how it doesn't necessarily line up with the Hurricane Center's forecast cone. I gotta get to a pause point here and then I can zoom in. So you can see that the Hurricane Center, do I have an arrow? I'm trying to find a pointer. There we go. Okay. So you can see that the center of the forecast cone is right here where this little icon is. And this Futurecast is not only out ahead of it, it's also to the east. So that's something that we're still watching is, does that eastward trend continue? But you can see here on Futurecast, it's a pretty well-developed system, and the Hurricane Center at this point is calling for a 70-mile-per-hour tropical storm that's right under the hurricane strength. So Futurecast, again, out ahead of it and to the right. So again, don't anchor yourself, as we say, to this iteration of Futurecast. More so pay attention to the Hurricane Center's forecast and those trends, all like we talked about with Beryl a few months ago. And then still maintaining that out in front and to the east trend. So we'll see what the Hurricane Center picks up on if they move their timeline ahead, if they move it to the east. That comes out again here in about the next half hour. So for us, here is our 7-day forecast. Still relatively quiet tomorrow. We'll see more of that tropical moisture moving in, so more clouds, a little bit higher rain chances, and the winds are still going to remain pretty gusty. For most of this week, up until the system moves out of here, we're going to still keep the northerly winds, but even with the northerly winds, all of that tropical moisture is coming back in. Tuesday and Wednesday, we've got the weather impact alert days for the rain chances, the flood risk, the beach conditions, all of that stuff. Again, on our website, you can read the whole list at your own pace. And then heading into Thursday, we start to see the drier air wrapping in around even as early as Wednesday evening. So calmer weather on the way heading into the end of the week. And then we got another blitz for y'all on Friday. So hopefully rain chances hold off for that. I do see a little piece of energy coming across on Friday, so may have to tweak the forecast there a little bit, but otherwise it's looking pretty good. I'm going to check the comments. If you have a question, drop it in there, and I'm going to do my best to answer it. I've got about 5 minutes or so before I got to go get ready for the show. So I'm going to go read comments real quick. Okay, hopefully my audio is back on. I believe I hit it. Yeah. Okay, my audio levels are working. So somebody asked about rain chances for, I don't know if they said tomorrow. I'm trying to find the comment again. Yeah, so the rain chances for tomorrow, I would say take this map and scooch it a little bit to the east. So the rain chances tomorrow aren't going to be quite all that high, but they are going to start going up. It's late in the day. It's my Friday. Sorry. Talking is hard sometimes. But the rain chances are going to start going up heading into the rest of the day tomorrow. And then by Tuesday morning, that's when we could start seeing some of those way outer bands coming across the coastal bend. And again, that's why we have the highest chances at the coast, as well as that flood risk heading into Monday and Tuesday. I think somebody else asked, when is it safe to walk my fish? Oh my gosh, question of the night. I think somebody asked when it was going to hit or make landfall. So here's the cone one more time. PTC 6. Oh, okay, so here's the newest update. We're going to see this together. So they have it intensifying by tomorrow evening. Instead of staying the same strength, they have it going up 60 miles per hour instead of 50. And then they have it Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock as a 70 mile per hour storm. So they did intensify it and make it stronger. By Wednesday morning, they have it as an 80 mile per hour hurricane, making landfall a little bit later in the evening as an 80 mile per hour hurricane. So that is the newest forecast update. You didn't even have to wait to watch the news for it. So it looks like what they did was they pushed the landfall back a tiny little bit, but also upped the intensity. So I'll have to wait in between the show, in between now and the show, to go and do a deep dive into how far over it looked like it moved, but I do think that it scooted over to the east just a little bit. It does look like it, because earlier it looked like it was more centered over Lake Charles, right, almost like right on the I think it's the Orange County line. But yeah, it looks like it moved a little bit further to the east. It definitely intensified only by 5 miles per hour, but still we're starting to see them kind of increase their forecast. And that's, I think, to be expected, because they are going with the trend of a more eastward storm, which also means a stronger storm, like we've been talking about. Also of note, we're not on the edge of that forecast cone anymore. So that's not to say let your guard down. We still need to be attentive to the forecast, but that is good news that they are getting more confidence in their forecast, because that is something they did mention in their discussion earlier this afternoon. Their 4 p.m. discussion was that the forecast was a little more low confidence than they would like, but now it seems like they're kind of increasing that confidence. So with that, I'm going to go do a little bit of light reading on their forecast post, and I'm going to leave y'all here with this. I want to thank y'all for watching. Stay tuned for 3 news at 10. And apparently I need to be on the other pad over here to work. or maybe the button just doesn't work. Anyway, I was gonna put up a QR code for y'all to scan and get our app, but it just doesn't wanna work. So with that, I am just going to end our stream. You'll have a great evening. Stay safe. I will see y'all in a little